Let me put it straight. When Venezuelans talk about human rights abuses, we are not talking about metaphors, exaggerations, or political games. We are talking about a living hell with real victims, real torture, and real complicity across the country. And today, with new military operations underway, an aggressive narrative coming from Washington, D.C., and fresh investigations into abuses committed against Venezuelans abroad, there's a question we cannot avoid. What is the political color of the human rights hell Venezuelans are facing? Because say it like it is, the abuses don't stop for Venezuelans, not inside the country, not outside of it. All right, let's get into it. Last week, Pete Hegseth, Trump's Secretary of War, formerly Secretary of Defense, he made a public announcement that lands months after the United States began striking vessels in the Caribbean and later in the Pacific. The operation has been ongoing since September 2025. U.S. officials say the targets are drug cartels. 80 people have been killed in 20 strikes on 21 vessels. Here's the Hegseth quote on November 13. I quote, President Trump ordered action and the Department of War is delivering. Today I'm announcing Operation Southern Spear, led by Joint Task Force Southern Spear and the Southern Command. This mission defends our homeland, removes narco-terrorists from our hemisphere, and secures our homeland from the drugs that are killing our people. The Western Hemisphere is American neighborhood and we will protect it. This isn't just branding, this is narrative consolidation. He spent the stated mission fighting drug cartels to removing narco-terrorists, not only from the US, but from the entire hemisphere, which he called America's neighborhood. This goes beyond America first. This is a justification for a broader action, not only for what is already happening, but for what may come. Even if some in the most radical the MAGA wing, don't like this implication. This announcement came just hours after Venezuela's dictator Nicolás Maduro attempted one of his usual political stunts, a sort of baño de pueblo, as we say in Spanish. It could be like a meet and greet with the people, trying to give the impression he's supported by the people. But he isn't. Asked by CNN what message he would give to the American people surrounded by hand-picked supporters, he said, I quote, Unite for the peace of the continent. No more eternal wars. No more unjust wars. No more Libya. No more Afghanistan. Let's talk about that. Venezuelans know that the peace Maduro calls for is impossible as long as he remains in power. He and his regime have waged a relentless internal war for years. How do we know? Because the documentation is overwhelming. Journalistic investigations, human rights organizations, and countless citizens have recorded atrocities over the years, video recorded. Since, of course, there are not official figures. We're talking about persecution and harassment, including the Nazi-style marking of homes after 2024 elections, arbitrary detentions, forced disappearance, the notorious Operation Tuntun, which in practice is state-sponsored kidnapping. And then there is the torture. Survivors have described suffocation with plastic bags, beatings to the stomach, wrapping victims' heads with manila folders and tape, food and medication deprivation, and beating with sticks to the ribs and legs. They are patterns. Some survivors presented their testimonies at the Organization of American States, May 3rd, 2024, here in Washington, D.C. During the presentation of the report by the independent international expert panel documenting 183 alleged Crimes Against Humanity from 2014 to 2024. I covered those testimonies directly. On January 7, 2025, the International American Commission on Human Rights released another report concluding that Maduro's dictatorship applied state terrorism and a coordinated strategy of repression to perpetuate itself in power. Commissioner José Luis Caballero is the second vice president of the Inter-American Commission of Human Rights, explained the finding in an exclusive interview I conducted alongside journalists Luzmeli Reyes for Efecto Cocuyo and Ricardo Lo Dice. And now Maduro asks for peace. He asks because he knows his days are numbered and crimes against humanity never expire. His attempt to show support in the streets failed because the July 28 elections exposed him. Nearly 70% of Venezuelans voted for change, even under unfair rules designed to benefit the regime. The opposition forces published the tally sheets proving Maduro's defeat. The regime never released the results. Instead, they clung to power by force. Since then, Maduro has been exposed before the country and the world naked in his farce, like the Hans Christian Andersen's The Emperor's New Clothes. And Venezuelans cannot ignore abuses just because they occur outside the country or involve political actors some people happen to support. On Wednesday, November 12, Human Rights Watch and the organization Cristosal released their investigation. You have arrived in hell. Torture and other abuses against Venezuelans in El Salvador's mega prison. I attended the launch event in Washington, D.C. This report documents torture and ill treatment carried out inside El Salvador's mega prison known as Secot against Venezuelan migrants who had been deported from the United States and transferred into this facility. The finding implicates the government of Nayib Bukele and Donald Trump as complicit in these abuses. One testimony described a detainee who, after being interviewed by the International Committee of the Red Cross, was beaten until his nose bled, then punched again and in the stomach until he began choking on his own blood. His cellmates were shouting for help. Guards replied that they just want to make them suffer. After sharing my coverage, I saw comments in social media saying things like, "Why don't you talk about Venezuela?" Or, "These abuses aren't as bad as Maduro's." Or even suggesting that Human Rights Watch doesn't document Venezuela's cases, which is false. Some people attacked me personally simply for reporting this launch. And my response is, I expose abuses of power wherever they come from. I don't do propaganda for anyone. The publication of this report does not diminish Venezuela's human rights crisis. Human Rights Watch has extensively documented abuses by Maduro's dictatorship for years. You cannot defend political prisoners in Venezuela and then justify torture against Venezuelans abroad. That is morally unacceptable. Human rights are not ideological. Our legitimate leadership, the one elected on July 28, 2024, must speak up and reassess its alliance with Donald Trump amid this Caribbean operation. Protections have not been guaranteed for Venezuelans fleeing the dictatorship who are now stuck in a legal limbo in the U.S. No one is asking the leadership to change the priority. It is, I know, removing Maduro from power, of course, but Venezuelans in the United States cannot become a collateral damage. Adelis Ferro, executive director of the Venezuelan American Caucus, has warned exactly that. Diplomatic action must be activated immediately to protect Venezuelans facing abuses in the US, and leadership must take a firm stance on this report. Criticizing abuses does not help Maduro, nor does it undermine the fight for Venezuela's freedom. You can criticize Trump when necessary and still work toward the country's liberation. When I asked Noah Bullock, executive director of Cristosal, whether their findings conflicted with the extensive evidence of abuses in Venezuela, he told me, I quote, "Two truths can exist at once. Abuses by the dictatorship in El Salvador do not negate the abuses of the dictatorship in Venezuela. There is no good dictatorship, no matter the shirt you wear. These people fled Maduro's dictatorship, got caught in Trump's terror campaign against migrants, were sent to Bukele's torture prisons, and now find themselves back under Maduro's dictatorship." To finish, a powerful comparison. The title of a new report comes from something Hegseth guards told Venezuelans detainees upon arrival. I quote, "You have arrived in hell." But Venezuelans have heard that phrase before. Maduro's torturers have used the same words. Nixon Alfonso Leal Toro, a protester detained 5 times before fleeing into exile, testified before the OAS on May 3rd, 2024. I quote, "They started questioning me, and I didn't say what they wanted. Another man stood in front of me and punched me in the face. He told me I better talk because there are no human rights here. You won't even read the Bible here. You have arrived in hell." Think about it. This hell, the hell created by human rights abuses, has no political color. Say it like it is. You can watch the full launch of the Human Rights and Cristosal report and my exclusive interview here in my YouTube channel.